One way that narcissists can control and manipulate you is through controlling your attention to serve their agenda and to distort your perception of reality. In today's video, I want to explain as best as I can some different ways and reasons that they do this, and hopefully if this is something that's happening to you, this video can help you see things a little more clearly. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. In order to understand this, it's important to understand that narcissists feel like they own you. They feel like you are an object made for their use and their use only. So anything that you have to offer them, they feel entitled to. And anything that you do, any time or energy or attention that you spend on anything that doesn't directly serve their needs, to them feels like a waste of their resources. So they feel no guilt whatsoever in expecting all of your attention to either be on them or what they want it to be on. Because despite what we may commonly think, narcissists don't always want all the attention on them, especially when they're doing something that they don't really want people to understand or notice or critique. Sometimes narcissists want your attention elsewhere, but wherever they want your attention, it's always going to be about them. It's always going to be something that's going to serve their needs. So when they don't simply want all the attention on them for all the simple narcissistic reasons we might imagine, they would probably want your attention misdirected elsewhere. Very similar to the way a magician misdirects your attention when they're doing something to fool you. Narcissists can redirect your attention by exaggerating flaws that you have, minimizing flaws that they have, like just not mentioning or minimizing or ignoring things that you try to bring up that you're trying to discuss with them about things they've done. They will turn it around on you. They will redirect your attention to all the terrible things you've done, when in reality, maybe the things you've done never even happened, or they're greatly exaggerating, or they can't even compare to the things the narcissist has done. But that really doesn't matter when a narcissist is really good at redirecting your attention. When a narcissist has control over your attention, they really have control over your opinions, your perceptions, your feelings about yourself, your feelings about the relationship, your feelings about what you owe to them. So being able to manipulate your attention serves the narcissist in many, many ways. One of the most insidious ways and the most damaging ways, in my opinion, is redirecting your attention or controlling your attention is a way to stop critical thought. It prevents you from really stepping back and being able to evaluate your situation. It can prevent you from seeing what's actually going on. And cults and high demand religions or groups actually use this technique all the time. They redirect your attention. They will shame you just for asking questions and make you feel like something's wrong with you. They'll shift the attention back onto you and what's wrong with you, or what they want you to think is wrong with you. And I cannot overstate how powerful of a manipulation tactic this can be, especially when it's coming from somebody that you trust. I was in a relationship, and I'm sure I've told this story before on this channel, so I'm sorry if you've already heard this, but this was a really, really pivotal moment for me. This was a huge epiphany in my life. I was in this relationship. I was with this person for about 8 years, and it was coming to an end for a lot of different reasons. And on one particular Saturday morning, I was just taking it easy. It was a Saturday morning. I don't remember exactly what I was doing. This was a really long time ago, but I wasn't working hard cleaning the kitchen or anything like that. I was probably on Facebook or something like that. And he got up, okay? And I could just tell he wasn't in a great mood. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this nervous tension that was in the air, and I certainly didn't feel comfortable asking if he was okay, because I knew that would probably just make things worse. So I was just kind of sitting there doing my thing, wondering if I had done something terrible, even though we hadn't even said 2 words to each other yet. And he eventually put his coat on, grabbed his wallet and his keys, and headed for the front door. And at that point, as he was opening the front door, I said, where are you going? And he turned around and just like this, he said, I'm going to the store. There's no food in the house. And normally, through this 8-year relationship, these types of moments came up all the time. And normally this would have sent me into a tailspin. I would have panicked. I would have immediately thought, oh my gosh, how could I have let the food run out in the house? Of course, assuming that it's my job to make sure the food is stocked and my job alone, and assuming that I have failed. I'm a huge failure and a disappointment. He's right to be angry with me. And now he has to go out on a Saturday morning when he could just be relaxing, eating breakfast. He's got to go out to the store and get food because I am such a miserable failure. And I would have started begging for forgiveness, trying to make it up to him. I would have said, no, I'll go to the store. I'm sorry. What do you want? I'll get whatever you want. This is normally what would have happened. But after all these years, for the very first time, after almost 8 years, I finally stopped and thought. I stopped and applied critical thought. And I walked into the kitchen and I opened the refrigerator and the pantry and I realized there was plenty of food. And then I remembered I had just gone to the store a couple of days earlier. So it dawned on me for the very first time that he wasn't upset that there was no food in the house. He was just trying to make me feel bad for no reason. And I remember staring into the refrigerator as this was like dawning on me, like, wow, he's just messing with me. This person I trusted. And as I was standing there, he walked back into the kitchen from the front door. He had shut the front door and I had said nothing to him. I had just looked at him where I'm sure he was expecting me to start groveling as I normally would. I had looked at him and then I had just walked into the kitchen. So he had shut the front door and he had now followed me into the kitchen and he was just standing there at the end of this galley kitchen we had. And he was looking at me and I was looking into the fridge and I just kind of laughed. Because I was just processing the reality of something that I had never paid any attention to. I was applying critical thought and becoming aware of my surroundings. I looked at him and he just looked at me and he didn't say anything. And he walked out of the kitchen and he did not go to the store. And I don't remember what happened the rest of that day, but that was a really pivotal moment where I finally saw for the first time things that had been right in front of my face the whole time. But because of this redirected manipulation, redirecting and controlling my attention so that I'm only focused on his anger, his disapproval, and my failures, I can't even see that there is food in the house. I can't even remember that I went to the store like 2 or 3 days ago. Things that are right in front of my face that are obvious and plain, I can't even see or process these things because I'm so distracted by the ways that I'm being manipulated and the ways that my attention is being controlled and stolen to meet the agenda of somebody that just wants to mess with me. And I'm sure another reason he was doing this, other than just for fun, was to elevate himself above me, which is the next thing I want to talk about. Narcissists will control and manipulate your attention in order to elevate themselves above you, to make you feel inferior and indebted to them, and to make themselves feel superior to you and like you owe them something. So they'll do this by shifting your attention to everything they've done for you and taking all the attention off of anything that you've ever done for them. And they can do this just by minimizing what you do for them, complaining about what you do for them, and just constantly bringing up every little thing they've ever done for you. It's not that complicated. At the same time, they will downplay and minimize all the terrible things they've done to you, all the lies they've told, all the insults and the cruelty. They will excuse it, rationalize it, tell you it never happened, tell you you're making a big deal out of nothing, while also emphasizing and exaggerating every bad thing you've ever done, every flaw you have, every careless remark you ever made. In the relationship I was referring to in the example that I just gave, if I tried to apologize for something I had said, even if it was just the simplest little misspeak. Like I had just said something that was a little thoughtless. There was never any forgiveness. It was just, my face was just ground into the dirt over the simplest little mistake, a thoughtless comment that I didn't mean. And these things there was no forgiveness or leeway. These things were magnified, emphasized. I was told, how could you be so selfish and so thoughtless? Why do you only think of yourself? And it was hard for me to argue because I would think, well, I guess he has a point. I mean, I guess that was a pretty thoughtless thing to say. Gosh, I wish I could be a little more thoughtful. But then on the other hand, if he said something that would hurt my feelings, something that offended me, there was always an excuse. I was always being too dramatic or too sensitive, or he was just saying it because he cared. And wow, you can't even take any criticism. Maybe you really need to think about ways you can improve. Do you think you're perfect? That kind of thing. So these are ways that a narcissist can really make you feel like you owe them the world, like you're horribly flawed and they are so much better than you and you owe them so much, just by simply controlling where your attention goes, making sure that your attention is all on the great things they've done for you, not on any of the good things that you've done for them, and all the bad things you've done and none of the bad things they've done. They just control where your attention goes so that you over time become convinced that they're better than you. They're morally superior. You don't have a right to criticize them. You owe them the world. You're lucky that they've even stuck around this long. Now, when we talk about attention in its simpler form, how the more stereotypical way that narcissists just want all the attention for themselves, it's simply because they feel entitled to it. They just feel entitled to all of your attention, or to be able to direct all of your attention wherever they want it to go. Like I said earlier, they feel like they own you. You are an object made solely for their use. Your attention is for their agenda only. So this is just natural. They just feel like they have a right to do this. And I think in this sense, a lot of them probably don't even realize that they're doing it. When they're hogging all your attention, they're keeping all your attention on them or on whatever they want you to pay attention to. And please don't confuse that with what I said earlier. I think the example I gave earlier, that was extremely intentional. He was intentionally trying to make me feel a certain way. And of course, when narcissists are redirecting your attention from things they're doing, that's very intentional. But in this sense, I think how narcissists feel entitled to you just paying attention to them, I don't think they even think about this, because this is just a natural entitlement they feel. You are supposed to be focused on them. The whole world is supposed to be focused on them all the time. They're the only reason the world even exists. Why would anyone want to spend any time thinking about anything else but them? And in this way, if you spend too long in a relationship with a narcissist, nothing is about you anymore. Everything is all about the narcissist, and you could really lose sight of yourself. And this serves the narcissist's agenda to condition you to always be paying attention to them, to always at least have them in the back of your mind, and to where you're not even considering your needs anymore, to where you lose track of what your needs even are. You don't even know what you like anymore, because you are just constantly trying to please them, trying to prevent the next tantrum, walking on eggshells, trying to feel like you're good enough because they've made you feel so inferior and so awful and flawed that you're just trying to earn a right to stay with them and be good enough for them. And I think a good example of this is like if you burn dinner, if you're cooking them dinner and you burn dinner, you're not really in a space anymore where you're thinking, oh shoot, I burned dinner. Now I'm going to have to eat burned dinner. Ugh. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I burned dinner. They're going to be so mad. They're going to be so upset. I really screwed up. You're not even thinking about the idea that you're going to have to eat a burned dinner, because you really don't even care about that. You're so focused on making them happy, on doing what they want, that you're not even thinking about how things affect you anymore. I remember in this same relationship that I was talking about earlier, I remember there was a point where somebody asked me, I don't remember, what makes you happy in this relationship? What do you want out of this relationship? And I remember thinking, all I want is for him to be happy. And at the time, I had no idea that there was a problem with that. But I remember thinking that, like, I don't want anything for myself. If he's happy, that's great. That's all I want. And that's really what being with a narcissistic person can turn you into, is somebody with no needs or no awareness of your needs. Because when you're with a narcissist, you are really stuck in this survival mode where everything but your most basic needs, like feeling safe and food and shelter, are the only things that you can really afford to care about anymore. Whether or not you enjoy what you're eating, or whether or not you like the TV show that you're watching, or whether or not you like the temperature in the house or the color that the walls are painted, none of that stuff matters anymore, because all your attention is just focused on survival and keeping this person calm and keeping yourself feeling relatively safe. When you are in tune with your reality, when you are in tune with how you really feel, when you are aware of what's actually going on around you, that hurts their agenda. That takes away from what they're trying to do. That takes away from their ability to have control over you and to elevate themselves above you. So they don't want you even aware of what you need. That's why they will shame you for things, little things that you ask for. They'll make you feel like you're being selfish and unreasonable when you're just asking for the most basic needs to be met. This is why it is ideal for them, for you to never feel like you can really relax, because you are just always focused on their needs. And you are so hyper focused on your flaws and all the ways that you do everything wrong that you don't have time to pay attention to anything they're doing to you. There is no space for you. And even in those moments where you are doing things that are solely for you, you kind of feel like you're stealing time, or that you have to jump through some hoops to earn the privilege to read a book for yourself or do something that's just for you. And this does not go both ways. And that's another thing that your attention can be taken off of. Something right in front of your face. You're spending all this attention on them. You're so focused on your flaws. You're so focused on how to make them happy, how to jump through hoops to earn the right to be loved by them or treated with basic decency. You can't even really stop to notice that they're not doing anything to try to earn your love. They're not really paying any attention to what you need or what you want, unless it's to use it to manipulate you, to make you feel guilty and ashamed of yourself. They're not nervous. They're not hyper-focused on anything. They're not walking on eggshells, but you don't even think about that because they've so convinced you that you're inferior to them, and that the only reason that you're walking on eggshells is because you're such a screw up. You're just screwing things up constantly. Now, if any of this applies to you in your current situation, it's very likely that you might have no idea that this is happening. You might not be able to see it at all, which is really the way it's designed. This is ideal for the narcissist, that you do not even see the ways that they are controlling your attention and manipulating you. So if any of this resonates with you at all, some helpful things that you could do in order to see things more clearly is to ask yourself some questions. And I think one of the most useful questions that you can stop and ask yourself is, are the statements that this person is making factual? Like in the example I gave earlier, I'm going to the store, there's no food in the house. When you feel that panic, that defensiveness rise up, that fear, that shame, stop and ask yourself, wait, what did this person just say? And is it actually factual? Is there really no food in the house? And there are going to be so many times where you might be absolutely shocked at how baseless the things that are being said to you are. When they say things to you like, you never listen to me. Is that true? Do you really never listen to them? I mean, when you really stop and think about it, you probably do nothing but listen to them. Or when they say things like, I always do everything around here. Is that really true? I was in a different relationship, unfortunately, with somebody else who would angrily complain that he felt like a maid. Now, he was in a position where he was making some passive income and he didn't really have to go to work very much. I, on the other hand, worked a full-time 9-to-5 job. So I was gone most of the day and he would just sit around doing pretty much nothing all day, which I didn't have a problem with. I was fine with it. He was making passive income. I didn't care. But he would fly into these rages where he would start telling me that he felt like a maid. And I was so lost in the emotional chaos of this, trying to make him happy, trying to figure out how I could make him feel better, that I wasn't able to step back and think about the validity of this statement. It wasn't until after the relationship was over that I looked back and I thought, maid? Wait a minute. There was nothing he ever did that he should have felt like a maid for. And I really tried to think, like, he never mopped or swept or cleaned the windows, or I don't even think he did the dishes. He sometimes would clean the crumbs off the counter if he needed to use the counter. And those crumbs weren't always his crumbs. So, okay, I guess that was pretty awful. But he did his own laundry and I did my own laundry. So maybe, I don't know. The only thing I could think of was he would take my dog out when he would go out he smoked. So he would go out and smoke and he would just take my dog out and set my dog on the ground while he smoked. He wouldn't even walk my dog. He would just take it out while he was going out anyway and put my dog down. And I think that's why he felt like a maid. But it was laughable looking back and trying to remember, like, wait a minute, why did he think he was a maid? He never did anything. But at the time, I couldn't see that because I couldn't step back and look at the reality around me and think critically, because my attention was being so focused on this emotional chaos and on the way that he was trying to make me feel ashamed of myself and trying to control my emotions. So some other things that you could ask yourself are, how much do I really contribute? And how much do they really contribute? And maybe even write it down. What do I bring to this relationship? And the longer this list is, you're probably going to find that there are a lot of things on this list of things that you do for the relationship that you will think, well, that doesn't really count because, or that's not really that big of a deal because I would have done that anyway, or I don't really do that great of a job at this, or they don't really like the way I do that, or, well, I just owe that to them anyway. But really, that's the way they want you to feel about every single thing on the list of the things you do for the relationship. And then when you write down all the things they do for you, the way you feel about, or the way they've made you feel about the things you do for them, probably more accurately apply to the things they do for you. Like how I just made the example of the person I was with taking my dog out. Well, he was just sitting around at home doing nothing while I was at work, and he was going outside anyway to smoke. And so he was just taking my dog with him and putting her on the ground, which I appreciated, but I mean, that wasn't like some great sacrifice. He wasn't even taking her for a walk. So, I mean, I appreciated it, but then the things I was doing, like working all day to help pay the bills, completely didn't count at all. I mean, in fact, I was kind of stupid for having to work, and I was kind of stupid for not having figured out whatever he was doing to earn passive income. Some other things you can ask yourself are, how do I really feel? If I burn dinner, do I feel bad about having to eat what I just burned? Or am I just solely disappointed that I'm going to disappoint somebody else? Do I care at all? Am I really happy if this other person's happy and I really have no other needs? Do I really want nothing out of this relationship other than for this other person not to be mad at me all the time? Am I really happy to eat dirt as long as this other person isn't angry with me? So stop and take inventory of what is real and question insults and criticisms that are being hurled at you. Take a moment to take a breath and step back and look at them realistically, especially if you believe them or you feel fear and shame over them. Things that are right in front of your face, like the food in the pantry and in the fridge, could be things that you can't even see because of how manipulated you're being. So really step back and look, open the fridge and look around at the reality and compare it to what is being said to you. Compare it to what your attention is being directed towards. Taking control back of your attention, taking control back of your perception of reality and your ability to evaluate your surroundings and evaluate your own reality is one of the most powerful ways that you can take control of your own life back from narcissists that want to control your attention strictly for their own use. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for other videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you liked this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.